Welcome to Make Your Mark podcast, where guests share their experiences, insights, and tactics to help you accelerate your business. So building, scaling, and monetizing your business is made easier. And I will be your host, Kay Suthar. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Make Your Mark podcast. And I have a very creative guest for us today. His name is Jarrod. He's a seasoned leader with 2 decades of experience. He's expertly expanded his digital marketing agency, Noble Studios, from a humble beginning to a global powerhouse. Now, with a focus on creating compelling human experiences, his architectural background helps transform from going to real world into virtual spaces. Now, Noble has collaborated with major brands such as Autodesk, Adobe, and Google, amongst so many others. Please welcome Jarrod to the stage. Jarrod, I am so excited to have you here. Oh my goodness.
Well, Kay, thank you so much. And I think we're both excited. 1, because I'm happy to be here today. And 2, it's been a long week and I can't wait to share knowledge. And I want you to hit me with any questions you have. But thanks for having me.
I've got loads of them. So I'm glad. Now, before we get into the whole nitty-gritty of what you do and how you help your clients all over the world, I'd love for you to share with us, what did your journey look like to build the business that you have today and to work with such awesome clients that you've had? Because we all know, right, as much as we like to think it happens with a click of a finger, it doesn't. It's a journey, right? So what did that look like?
Well, I would imagine, like most entrepreneurs, you start in one path of your life and then you're met with opportunities that you just decide, you know what, I'm going to take this opportunity. And so mine started with, I was set to be one of the youngest architects in the United States. And so I graduated high school at 16. I was going to school, focused, on just this idea of like building the physical world. And at that time, at the very end of my sort of studies, I met my partner, Susan. She's my wife, and now she's our COO, and we both founded the company. But to kind of peel back a little bit, I was working at an architecture firm. And at the time, at this architecture firm, they were really practicing what they call user-centric design. And effectively, if you think of Disney, right, like picture yourself on a Disney cruise, and you're walking around and you got Disney print on the wallpaper, you got it in the background, in the music, you got it in the floor, it's on the silverware. And that idea of like really exposing a brand to every single touch point, this is what that architecture firm was doing. And they asked me to not only help on the physical side of building resorts in Dubai and others, but actually the digital side of all of that. So they wanted us to design the brand, the logo, the website, the menus for the restaurant, to even like designing the plating of the food for the chefs to follow. And I just fell in love with the virtual side of it. And at the time, Susan, my wife, she was working at a PR agency, and she was helping create the tagline, "What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas." So really focused on copywriting. And then we both kind of like we met, of course, we graduated, and then we just thought to ourselves, you know what, we really are gravitating towards this idea of a digital marketing agency. And so we decided to start one with the intent of truly like bringing humans together across the world. And this is 20 years ago. So we kind of saw ourselves as pioneers helping build the internet.
Oh my goodness. Okay, there was so much there already. Now I've got more questions to ask, right? Like, that's awesome. Now, one of the things that you mentioned is that this idea came to you and your awesome wife 20 years ago.
Yes.
Right? When virtual really wasn't a thing then. So how did that even resonate with you both? Where did that come from?
Well, believe it or not, we met in an English 404 class. It was our very last semester, and we had already, gotten jobs, and we were already in the workforce and stuff. But what happened was, in this communications class, they asked us to present a company, and we could use any medium that we wanted to. And so some people made a white paper, some people made a video, some people took pictures, they did billboards, and we decided, let's build a website. And so we actually got teamed up and we actually built like a prototype website. These are the early days. And we thought that was really fun. I loved the design side of it and building out the sort of virtual spaces, what pages were available, where do we drive users, what was of interest. And she loved all of like the brand and like letting it come to life and telling the story of that company. And so we already had sort of like, it was like our prototype to like test it out. And then when we got into the real world, we realized we actually just loved the virtual space that was kind of starting to build. And we just ran at it.
Wow. Now, Like you mentioned, like you had this idea many years ago,
Yeah.
right? So when you started building this out, obviously there weren't as many software and all these other
No.
things that help people now back then. So how did you manage to get around all of that?
Yeah, thank you. It's interesting. Like there was no WordPress, right? There was no content management systems. You had to build every single site. You had to build a custom content management system. And what you actually found was that clients didn't want to edit their content, right? They wanted you to build the digital experience, AKA a website, and they wanted to go to you for you to maintain this, And so,
Right.
so we left Las Vegas. We moved up to the Northern Nevada area. And we're right in the base of Lake Tahoe, so on the west coast of the United States. And we just saw this. It was an underserved area for marketing, branding, digital marketing, PR. And so we just started, joining community, like everyone, right? You join the Chamber of Commerce's and the B2B or, all just everywhere you could possibly expose your brand and
Right.
make more meaningful connections. And the next thing you know, our name started to, get referred over and over and over. And then we found ourselves after 5 years getting introduced to the Bay Area, the Silicon Valley area.
Wow.
And that's what happens, right? You get your foot into one of those major companies, and it was Autodesk. And then it just starts to spread like wildfire. Everyone hears about you. They start recommending you're the secret weapon that, because again, no one was doing this, 20 years ago. And then we started we just started land grabbing for every single logo you can imagine and household name. And that was just really exciting times. I mean, very humbling, but very exciting because we felt like pioneers, right? No one else was doing this at the time. And like HTML5 we were one of the first ones to implement it on a Ford Focus, campaign that they were doing. And I think at the time, Yahoo and Microsoft and one other company had launched some HTML5 work. So we just felt like we were on this bleeding edge. And that was that energy and that passion just fueled us and allowed us to attract the right employees and team members and partners and clients and whatnot.
Oh my goodness. This sounds amazing. Now, I've got to ask you, right?
Please.
When you told people about what this vision was, what you wanted to do,
Yeah.
did they think you were absolutely insane?
Yeah. Yeah. They did. It's so funny. I'm glad you asked this because at the time they were like, well, I know, but why do I need a website?
Right.
And right. And I
Mhm.
had to convince people that the internet is here to stay, right? And that it's actually, because this came right off the dot-com boom, which makes
Right.
sense, right? All these great ideas, grocery stores, right? Online, things like that, all
Yeah.
the stuff we're dealing with today, but the user base wasn't there, right? The
Right.
consumption online wasn't there. People were scared to make purchases online, and there was no social media. There was MySpace, and that was like, that's really dating. I don't know what the hell that guy's up to these days, but yeah, it was, and I remember even teaching at a university, like what Google is and how to use Google, and now I'm really dating myself. I'm only 43, but we started really young, so, but yeah, so it was an uphill push to like convince people. And of course now, there's no convincing. Now it's like a race. It's like a cheetah racing,
Yeah.
out in the field, So
Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about mindset here, right?
yeah,
Because you were very early adopters into this. And
yes,
so you had this idea, you had this vision, right? People were telling you you were mad, right?
yeah,
People didn't understand it. People
yeah,
didn't know why they needed it, right? So what was it, right, that kept you going, not falling back into the state of maybe I'm in the wrong path, maybe I shouldn't be doing this, that nobody wants this, nobody understands this? Because I know a lot of our listeners
yeah.
listening to this episode are probably going through that same thing or been through it before,
Yeah,
right?
well, so I love this. I think every entrepreneur is faced with some level of adversity, right? And some level
Right.
of doubt, whether they project it on themselves or others project it onto them.
Mm.
And I do remember there was a defining moment where we had sat down with our parents, right? And we were 23 at the time. We're sitting down with our parents. Hey, listen, we're going to go into this new field. And they just thought, you're crazy. Why? Like, you should get into construction and real estate. That's what we're in. We know this. These are very stable industries. And it's time to grow up because now we're pregnant, we've got a kid on the way. And so we, of course, had that to balance us as well. We're like, okay, well, we're going to take a risk here. But I think it comes from wanting to be curious. I think also, and like there's a lot of people that when they say you can't do something, it kind of fuels you to do it, right? You're like, well, I'm going to prove to you that I
Right.
can now. And so I think that was part of in our blood at the beginning. We're sort of rooting for the underdogs. We felt like underdogs. And you want to win, right? When you're an underdog, you want to have a Cinderella story, right? You want to
Mm.
prove to the naysayers that you can do this. So I think it was a combination of that. a combination of being young and not knowing what the road was ahead of us, and then the combination of just being curious and excited about the evolutions and the changes that were happening in the industry, similar to like what we're going through now with AI and other things. It's kind of rekindled this, curiosity and excitement for the future.
Absolutely. Now, I'm so glad you brought AI because I wanted to
Yes.
speak to you about that, right?
Yes.
Nowadays, people are like, oh, you don't need to hire editors. Like, there's AI platforms to do it for you, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Right. Yeah.
cheaper, it's quicker. Like, why do you need actual editors?
I'll tell you what, I subscribe to the fact that I see AI as a tool, right? I see it as like a brainstorming buddy, an assistant, right? One that's going to maybe take care of some of the heavier lifting or the redundant tasks or the repetitive, kind of processes that exist. What I don't think it does is replace creativity and context and strategy. And so you do need editors, but you might not need them to generate the 10 paragraph blog, but you need them to go through and say, you know what, we're missing the human context, we're missing first party, we're missing quotes from actual other humans. Like, it's done a great job of framing the problem and how to solve it, but it's missing this human element. It doesn't have the ums and the ahs and the knows that we use as filler words.
Right.
It's too clean, it's too polished, it's too structured.
Mhm.
And so I think there's an element that we're going to get probably soon to where people are like, I smell ChatGPT. You can smell it. You're like, oh, I know that was generated by ChatGPT. And once you can no longer smell it and you run it through Claude, or you ask it to be more humanized, or you build your own GPTs so that it has tone and inflection and you have the right words that you want to use. Okay, then you're gonna then but again, you have so much effort to put into like get these things to act like how we would speak, I don't believe that we're ever going to remove the human element. I mean, where there's more humans on this planet than there ever has been, and more people are employed on this planet than there ever has been. So why would that change because we have some more advancement of technology?
Right. No, I'm totally there with you. Like, I don't know if you know, but we have a podcast agency where we do editing for all of our clients and everything. And I get that question all the time, like AI, like, why
Right.
do I need to hire editors, right? And it's exactly that. It's because there's still a huge human element to it,
Oh,
right?
yes.
That no machine can replace,
No.
no matter how advanced it gets.
No, I know. And if it does, it's only going to mirror another human, and meaning like me, for instance. We created a Jarrod GPT and we ingested all my recordings, all my speeches, all my talks, all the articles. And it does a decent job of answering how I would, but it's only based on the past. It doesn't take into current events, or my mind is now changing towards this new subject. How's it going to take that into consideration? And so it's always going to be behind us. I don't believe it's going to get in front of us.
Right. No, absolutely, right? Like the human element is
Yeah.
so powerful in anything that we do, right? Because
Yes.
I feel like even being on Zoom, people are sick and
Yeah.
tired of it. They want human connection. Hence
Yes.
all these live events and face-to-face networking that people are now doing.
Yep. And it's booming, actually. Like last year was sort of like the test year for travel and conferences. And now I swear to you, I've been traveling so much and to your point, people are lacking. They want that human connection. And you know what it is? I'll tell you, it comes from this. And I just read this article from Wall Street Journal just 2 months ago. And it
Oh,
talks about that loneliness is on the rise. And it
really?
makes sense, right? 1 in 4 Americans are actually experiencing loneliness, and they don't feel like they have someone who they consider a good friend and a confident person they can go to. And so it makes sense, right? We are sitting on Zoom all day. We went through a pandemic. We all love our, Netflix and Apple shows. We just have so much stimulation, social media, all these things. But then what happens is then you get this other study that Stanford University just released, and it says when you create strong social connections, you actually reduce anxiety and depression, you increase your confidence, you sleep more, your inflammation goes down, you can fight off diseases faster, and that's just by being together with other humans. And so I think that people crave to be around other humans. And I think you're going to see the same thing with AI. The pendulum swings really hard one way, and then we're like, I'm tired of this sort of auto-generated content that doesn't have a soul, and it's going to swing the other way. And that's what you're seeing. You're seeing a lot of these AI companies are hiring people to write content because they want it to come off professional and friendly and contextual and relevant. So I
Right.
think we just see that pendulum swing back and forth constantly.
Absolutely. I love it. Now, I wanted to kind of talk a little bit more about what you do for your clients, right? Why
Yeah.
you are so different and unique to what kind of results you get for your clients. So tell us a little bit about your company.
Yeah, thanks. So we're a creative digital performance agency. So when we first started out, we were building these digital experiences because nobody else was. And then clients asked us, and we needed to as well. They said, "Well, great, you're building these experiences, but we need traffic to come to them." So we started really embarking on the performance marketing side, right? Adding SEO and SEM, programmatic, retargeting, conversion rate optimization, A/B testing, all these different services, so that when we brought humans to this digital experience, we could get them to fulfill on, convert and fill out forms or download things or book rooms or whatever that, sort of conversion path was for that customer or client. And then we started really opening up and saying, well, that's great, but we were really extending brands. We're inheriting creative and doing creative campaigns because we weren't considered a brand agency. And so then we decided, well, we need to add brand. We need to add brand strategy and, really go get to the essence of that company, so that once we understood their meaning and what they would promise out in the world, we could then capture that through campaigns and, taglines and experiences. And so now when we can own both the creative, the performance, and then the digital side, we're really the most effective for our clients. And we just dive in. We do discoveries when we first meet with them. We do the stakeholder interviews and qualitative and quantitative research, understanding where their goals are, where they want to be in 5 years. And then we build strategic marketing plans that effectively get them to that end result. And it's an iteration, right? This world we're in is digital. So we're constantly putting stuff out, optimizing it, having our sort of insights meeting every single month, reviewing, what's working, what's not. We do quarterly business reviews. So we're focused on, okay, what did we do last quarter? What are we focused on this quarter? Are we hitting the mark? Oh, you guys are going to go IPO. Great. We're going to set you up for that. We're going to build up your traffic, whatever it is, but we're really just owning our clients' problems as if they're ours. And we're staying up late at night and thinking about the same things that they are.
Yeah. So, okay, who are your ideal clients then? Because what I'm hearing right now is you customize to what your clients need,
That's right.
right?
Yeah. And I think that's the future. I think that if agencies really try to productize their services or create these turnkey services, I just feel like you're going to fall to the bottom. I think that's, I think it's important that you have processes and you have methodologies that you follow, but you treat every single client with a sort of unique application. And so we like to specialize in two sort of distinctive different verticals. One's the B2B. And that, of course, is just a massive, but fintech, health tech, SaaS, those are kind of the ones that we really focus on in the B2B sector. And then travel and tourism. Because you got to think about why we're focused on that is that travel is sexy, right? Everyone wants to do it. We can thank Instagram for all the selfies, and whatnot, but everyone wants to travel. And it's one of the world's largest economies right now is to travel. And it's helping flatten the world and bridge and bring, people in, together and building those deeper, meaningful connections. And so if you think about the product that travel and tourism sells, they sell memories and experiences.
Yeah.
But right, too many people traveling, you're dealing with like sustainability issues and you're dealing with responsible travel issues, and you've got the rise of carbon footprints and things like that. So we're trying to really focus with these destinations and bringing in the right sort of visitor at the right time, with the right messaging. And then, of course, analyzing what are their behaviors in market. Are they spending a lot? Are they staying longer? Are they treating the area with respect? Are they bonding with locals? So those are the two verticals we really work heavily in. And what's nice is we can cross-pollinate like the sort of, account-based marketing stuff that's done in the B2B side. We can do that over to the travel and tourism side. And then the deep emotional connective stuff we do with the travel and tourism side, we bring that over to the B2B side because it's lacking, right? It's also cold and lacking the human element, if you will.
Oh, interesting. I like that. Now, you have worked with so many clients all over the world, right? All
Yes.
at different levels, different backgrounds. And so when clients first come to you, what are, I guess, the top three common challenges that you hear again and again and again?
Yeah. I feel typically they're not happy with the results of their marketing when they come to us,
Yeah.
right? They're underperforming. There's a lot of what I call vanity metrics, right? So they're like, well, we got a lot of sessions, we got a lot of this, but they're not actually hitting to the heart of, what matters to them, which is like conversions, right? Whether you're selling a product, a service, or an experience. And so they usually come saying, we need help to one, get our brand out there, build the higher part of the funnel, right? Get more brand awareness. And then two, we need help actually like, really converting the ones that are at the bottom of the funnel but maybe just don't know about our service. So it's really usually a lack of demand, or it's a lack of closure of that demand, but we can identify through our partners and the softwares and the tools we use that there is a big demand. They're just not having conversation where that demand is currently at. And so oftentimes we come in, we do a big audit. We call it like a digital audit. And we just basically look at every single digital touch point they have. We look for, is there brand consistency? We look for frequency. We look for engagement. And then we look to make sure that those messages that they're putting out there and how they're engaging actually leads to, at the end of the day, some sort of a purchase. But that's usually where we'll start. And then every client becomes unique after that of how we sort of, tackle those challenges.
I love that. Now, I don't know if this is true. You will know this.
Yeah.
I hear that in order, right, for you to really build your brand, your business, that you need to have video content going out 7 times a day per day. Is that true?
Well, I've seen brands be very successful without, that sort of investment of video. However, it is the number one consumed media. And so I highly recommend, whether it's, the idea of like, a bite, a snack, or a meal in terms of size of videos. I think it's important that you do long form video, cut it up, create snippets, put it into the different social media channels, build it into your newsletters. If you do, case studies, have them be video. If you do white papers, have there be an element of the video there. So I feel like that's the number one consumable media. You should be executing it. The hard part is that it takes a lot to make video. The good part is that people's expectation has lowered over the years. It used to be this really high fidelity, very expensive way of capturing video, where I've seen some incredible, storytelling with video that's just done with iPhones, And so I feel like there's this element of you've got to just dive in and do it, because if you're not going to do it, likely your competitor will.
Yes, absolutely. Now, is this something that you help people with? Because I know there's another kind of challenge out there, like, what kind of video should I take? Like, what should I say in there? How long should it be? Should I do it outside? Should I do it inside? Do you actually help people structure out on how to take these videos, or can you do it for them?
Yes, we do. We actually have video editors and videographers on staff. We also have a slew of partners. In fact, one of our partners, our chief creative officer, was down in Santa Monica. It's a beach town in California. Was just down there shooting their next seasonal video, and we had probably 40 people with models and actors and stuff. So there's that high fidelity that's still required for those big campaign shoots. But then this sort of on the daily, we'll oftentimes create what we call the content calendar, and then it does have in there, okay, we're going to do some written posts, we're going to do some video posts, we're going to do some graphical posts or infographical posts. So I do, yes, we do. We 100% strategize. What we find though is that the clients, when you think about an ideal client profile for us, is a client that has a marketing team and that we're not educating them. They're able to execute on the strategy that we're effectively bringing to them. And then we partner, right? They know their product and their customers better than we'll ever know them, even though we can come up to speed quite quickly. So we partner, but we're usually the ones helping provide that level of strategy, and then of course measuring the results with them and then finding opportunities. But it's really important to have these kinds of team members on staff.
Absolutely. Oh, I love that. Now, you said one of the magic words. You said content calendar, right?
Yes.
Which is a strategy that you take, and it works.
Yes.
A lot of people use a content calendar. Now, it's not all the same. It's all different for different companies, right? But
Yes.
then you mention you have videos, you have written forms, you might have quotes, you have several different things. But how do you know when they go out, how they go out? Because we do need to have different forms of content that goes out for our audience, right? So how do you even put that together?
This is something that we work with our clients on a lot. And to your point, they don't know where to start.
Right.
And they just don't. And so what you start first was like, well, let's talk about like holidays that your team maybe takes off. Okay. So we then bake the holidays in, and we know that those are sit there anchored. Now, then we start talking about, okay, what events that you're going to be at this year? Okay. We start baking those events in. What things do you do? Like, do you have a holiday party? Do you have a summer solstice barbecue thing that you bring all your staff members together? Do you do on-sites or off-sites? So we start building all of that in. So you, believe it or not, you start quickly seeing a populated calendar. And then you layer in the thought leadership element. It's like, okay, now what kinds of topics do you want to discuss? So you all of a sudden you start looking, you have these, 5, 6, 7 categories, and each one has a date associated with it. And then you wake up after a few hours and you're like, wow, we have a very robust calendar. Now, I will say, now, when you start to experiment with video or text or infographics, you really need to look at the level of engagement. Sometimes, like video on, for instance, LinkedIn doesn't perform as well as video on Instagram or TikTok and whatnot. And so you've got to look at by channel. And if you think, LinkedIn's more of a desktop user experience than it is mobile, although they're starting to move more towards mobile. But yeah, whenever I launch videos, they don't get as much performance as if I launch a quick little infographic or a quick little a listicle article or something like that. So you've got to look at your different mediums mixed with your different channels.
Wow. Okay. There's a lot going on there. All right.
Yeah.
There's a lot. Especially if you're on several different channels and you know that there's certain content that works better than other content. Yeah. Like this is why people need to hire you and your team, right?
Well, I'll tell you, we hear, and I mean this, and this is like, I once heard this from an advisor, and he said, it's okay to be the most expensive in the room, but just make sure you're bringing the most value. And when I look at what we do for our clients, we very much look by channel, and we use different creative by channel. We use different CTAs by channel. Those drive to different landing pages when we drive them away from there. And it's really about meeting the user where they're at in that moment. And whereas a lot of other agencies that I see, they take the same creative and all they think about is the form, right? They just think about, well, this one has a little bit of a wider format. This has, this is what the dimensions are for this platform, but they don't change CTAs. They don't change messaging. They don't change creative. They all drive to the same exact landing page. And that's different. People that are on LinkedIn have different problems that need solutions than are people on Instagram or on TikTok or Facebook or X or you name it. And so I think that's really important because you can't just build one piece of creative and blast it out there. You can start with one piece of creative like the hub and then build sort of micro versions of that. But to do the same thing over again in every single channel, it's not going to perform.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, I know at this point people are thinking, oh my goodness, okay, I need to have a conversation with Jarrod. I may need to hire him. I need him to look at what I'm doing right now, see how I can make this better. So where can they go to connect with you, to kind of have a conversation with you and to learn more?
Well, I'm glad you said conversation because that's really where everything starts. And it's about building those connections. And at the end of the day, people do business with people that they build chemistry with. And so I would say, let's start with a conversation. You can go to our website, noblestudios.com. That's NOBLESTUDIOS.com. Or you can find me on LinkedIn. That's probably the best place to start with. You can direct message me, find me there, Jarrod, Jarrod Lopiccolo, LOPICCOLO. And let's start a conversation. I always say, don't sell me shit on the first round. Let's just actually have a conversation. And then on the second or third round, then we can start talking about maybe there's partnership opportunities or whatnot. But let's just have a conversation.
Absolutely. I love it. And guys, all the links that Jarrod mentioned will be in the show notes. So make sure you scroll down and definitely go ahead and connect with him, have a conversation with him. And I'm sure that you will not be gutted with all the things that he'll be able to show you, all the things that he'll be able to explain to you, and really blow up your business, right? With using this marketing strategy. Oh my goodness, Jarrod, thank you so much for coming onto the show. So many golden nuggets in such a short amount of time. Thank you so much.
Well, I love it. Thank you, Kate, for having me.
Thanks for listening to Make Your Mark podcast at www.makeyourmarkpodcast.com. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you get this and every other episode that comes out. We have lots of great stuff coming, so make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss it. And thank you in advance for all the reviews and comments. I appreciate it so much, and I look forward to serving you in next week's episode.